Hello everyone, this is Carolina Cervantes and this is a BLE 580 project presentation. And we can begin with all about me and my teaching experience. So I have been teaching for 7 years now, and since I've started, I have taught 6th to through 8th grade. And within these grades and within these years of experience, I've taught social studies, AVID, business, and I am currently teaching 7th grade social studies and AVID. And AVID is a college and career readiness class that stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. And in this class, we focus on just strategies that will help them get to college, academic skills, and tools that they could take along their educational journey. But my focus and my undergraduate degree is in social studies, history, education. So for these projects, I decided that I did want to focus on the social studies side of my classes. So in the past, I have worked for two districts. Well, one that I currently work for and one that I previously worked for. Both of them have high populations of ELs. The first district that I worked for before was Tempe Elementary School District, where I taught 1 year of 7th grade social studies. And then I moved to Los Angeles, California, and was employed, or am still employed, in Lenox School District in Lenox, California. It is an unincorporated city in the Los Angeles County, so it's in the Los Angeles area. If you've ever visited LA, it is by the LAX airport. And this small community of Lenox is largely made up of Mexican and Central American families and students. So most students speak Spanish and English, but also there are some who only speak English, but their parents speak Spanish, so they hear the language. Some are able to understand the language of Spanish, and some are able to speak both languages. So even though there are many students who are registered as English only, have some sort of experience with listening to another language at home. So I wanted to focus on 4 projects that are under 2 umbrella topics. So the first umbrella topic is family engagement, family parent community involvement, and the second one is supporting English language learners in the mainstream content area classrooms. So under the family engagement umbrella, I wanted to focus on opening and also enhancing parent and teacher communication, also connecting parents throughout their child's education throughout the school year. And under the mainstream classes, I wanted to focus on reading and writing. So the first project under family engagement, I wanted to concentrate on opening communication. So these are things that I would begin to use at the beginning of the school year, and then something that I could use throughout the school year to make sure that my communication is correct and appropriate, and also something else that I could use throughout the school year. So I created a parent communication checklist, revise the syllabus that I previously used, and a template that I could use for the Remind app, which is a messaging system that I could also send reminders, send messages out. But this template could also work for an email or Google Voice that has the text option. So I could use this template to kind of plug in the information easily and send it out to the parents so they know what is happening in the classroom. So the literature that I reviewed, that we've used in our master's program, are literatures that concentrate on how to connect parents to the classroom and how to change the mindset of teachers to be able to connect and find the ways to connect with the community. And usually the Hispanic community is very reserved and doesn't necessarily participate often because they feel like there's this language barrier. And so these literature pieces kind of help us connect parents with the school and try to help them understand the importance of their participation in their child's education. And so one of the new resources that I found that was very helpful in creating and kind of condensing the syllabus was this source that concentrated on the purpose of the syllabus. So this quote is very it's one of my favorite quotes about the syllabus. So the syllabus is not an exhaustive view of the territory, but it sets the grounds for teachers' actual educational journey through the terrain. So what was currently in place was there was no checklist before. The current syllabus was about 6 pages and it provided too much information all at once. And there was no remind template. So I wanted to share what I had and what I did not have before so I can discuss what I wanted to change about what I did have and what I wanted to add into my classroom. So one of the things that I did have was the syllabus, and I wanted to change it. As you can see, there is a ton of information. Now, some of this is in English and Spanish, so I wanted to combine it all. But regardless of that, it would still, if it was just in one language, it would probably still be 3 to 4 pages long. And it was very overwhelming. Now, the idea behind sending so much information was that usually at the beginning of the school year, parents are very interested in the class, are very interested in figuring out what the teacher wants to say. The kids are interested, especially in middle school. They start off very interested. So I said, well, this is my opportunity to present as much information as possible so that parents know everything about the class. But I realized that they're also getting probably the same syllabus 5 other times with 5 other teachers. They're also sending a ton of information. So I realized that although some parents might have read through everything, it is very likely that they just signed where they needed to sign and gave it back to their child. So it was not necessarily something that was very helpful for either the student or the parent because of the amount of information that it had. So with this in mind and with all of the literature and the new resources that I used, I came up with a shortened version of the syllabus. So the first piece of evidence I have is a 1 page syllabus, 1 page in English and one would be in Spanish. Now this is important for the students to have. It would be easy for the parents to read, to review, like, oh, what did that teacher say? Or what did that teacher want? Or how does she grade? Or how do I contact her? What are her office hours? All of this is very easily accessible. And the intention was to be able to kind of capture the parents' attention, have something that they could either post on in the fridge, they can post somewhere, they can leave it somewhere in their office or in their room, and if they ever needed to go back to it, they could use it. Now for students, it is overwhelming. The beginning of the school year is overwhelming to have so much information given to them. So something like this would help them just concentrate on what's important and figure out what this class is about. So this is why I wanted to create something along these lines. And I know a lot of information is important, the one that I had before, but I wanted to make sure that it started off the year with a simple, easy to read, easy to understand, easy to access and refer back to rather than a whole packet to read. Now, the other 2 mini projects that I also included within this part is the checklist that I created for for me personally, and it would just be to ensure that I am following what I said I wanted to do with parent communication. So this checklist, very simple, but at the same time, very important for me to have something I can post in my classroom to remind me the importance of parent communication. So for example, if I'm sending something out, the first thing I would want to do is check contact info, ensure that everything is up to date, their email, their phone number, everything is up to date. And then the second check mark would be to make sure that the message that I'm sending is clear and concise. And then asking for feedback. So feedback would be a signature on something that I sent home, or maybe a response to the text that I sent, something that indicates that the parent read the information and they know that they can access my email, or they can contact me to find out if they need any clarification. So then the third little mini project that I included here was a template that I wanted to use for the Remind app, email, or text. Now this is already done, and I included some of the information that I would like parents to see. One side is in English, the other is in Spanish. Now this template is ready to use. So if I wanted to implement this tomorrow, I could just plug in the current assignments, the current announcements that I want parents to know, and I could easily send this out to parents through email, through the Remind app, or through text. So this is something that I wanted to have that was just already made, and I could just plug in the information to send quick reminders to the parents. So for this first part, I wanted to focus on enhancing my parent communication by starting communication with the syllabus, by implementing a checklist for myself to make sure that my information is okay and is good to send out, and something that was quick and easy throughout the school year. The second part under the same umbrella topic is connecting parents to their child's education. So for this part, I wanted to create a newsletter. Now this newsletter would also have an audio version of the newsletter. Now I have had experience where parents have told me that they don't read very well, or maybe they don't read at all. And so creating an audio newsletter would help, kind of like I'm doing now, where I'm explaining what it is that that I am presenting, and the parents would know. I could read it out loud to them, and they know what is going on. And if they don't know how to read, then they are able to understand what is happening in the classroom. So for this project, I chose two literature pieces that I'm sure looks very familiar to you guys, and this was part of our master's program. And these two resources were great in showing the importance of communicating with parents and how to communicate with parents, learning the ways that it's to help parents connect with the classroom. And some of these news resources were very helpful. I've never had a newsletter before, so some of these resources really helped inform what the purpose of a newsletter was, what I needed to include, and why. And so one of the quotes that were very important and very popped out a lot to me was, school newsletters are intended to provide essential information to parents and can also foster a connection between the classroom and the home. And that was something that I did not have. I did not have a newsletter in place, and I would only contact parents because the student was in trouble, because the student was failing. Maybe I needed to set up a parent-teacher conference. So the communication was very minimal. And so that was one of the biggest changes that I wanted to focus on, was really creating something that would connect parents to what was happening. So like I said, the very minimal communication included only speaking to parents for parent-teacher conference, if there was any behavior issues in the class, failing grades, back to school night, or any kind of school fair that was happening. That was the only time that I connected with parents. So most of the time, they had no idea what was happening in the classroom. They had no idea that their child had homework. They did not know what the content I was presenting. And even if they did not understand the content, or maybe they didn't like social studies when they were in school, but as long as I informed them about what was going on, then that was a big change that I wanted to make. So for this project, here is the evidence that I worked on. So I created a newsletter. So as you can see, there's one in English and then the other is in Spanish. And so I had the same idea as a syllabus. I did not want to overwhelm them with information, and especially if I'm going to be sending this out regularly. It could be weekly or it could be every month. However, the amount of times that I would send this out, I wanted for it to be concise, easy for myself, since we all know we have a lot of grading and a lot of planning to do, but then also something that parents can easily read, go through. They're like, okay, here are some important announcements. All right, this week they're going to focus on this and this and this. Helpful resources, something new that they can learn. All right, the homework is this, and they could go through this newsletter and they can figure out the important pieces that is happening at that time. So I also included important dates, kind of repeating a little bit over and over, like what was for homework, so they know. And then any way that they wanted to contact me, I would provide that information. And doing the same for Spanish, so that parents can read it in Spanish. Now this is what I would create the audio for. So I could read through the newsletter and maybe do a little bit of explaining in the audio, so that parents who cannot read, or maybe they want to listen to the audio because they don't want to read the newsletter, they can have an audio version of the newsletter. The third project now falls under the supporting ELLs and mainstream content area classrooms umbrella. And so for this project, I wanted to focus on reading comprehension. So for social studies, we do read a lot of informational text. And so the project concentrated on revising close reading step. So close reading is an activity for reading, and it's very helpful for students, especially English language learners, to remember and really determine what the reading was about. And I also wanted to create a student-friendly close read steps. So these are also some of the sources that I use from previous courses, and these focus, I mentioned the Educating Emergent Bilinguals once again, because this book is a really great book that concentrates on very important practices that we can use for our English language learners. So this, I mention it again because I did use, again, some resources to help guide what I was trying to do for this week's project. And so for some of the new resources that I used, also kind of gave an idea of how other people have done close read steps, the importance of close read, and how it helps close reading, how close reading helps English language learners and students increase their reading comprehension. So this also is one of my very favorite quotes for this project. Through our research, we have seen the positive impact of CSR, which is closed sentence reading, as an integral component of early literacy instruction on student skills as developing readers. So this was a project that was very important to me because I currently use the closed reading steps very frequently, and but I knew that they needed to change. So, like I said, I had the closed reading steps. They were 11 steps, which we'll review now. So the ones, the current thing in place are 11 steps on the close read. Now, if you read through all of them, there was a lot of repetition. For example, there was three types of reading. So there was a first read where students read on their own, second read, teacher reads aloud, and third read, teacher reads again and annotates as students annotate. So there was a lot of repetition. Now this is a great activity, just as is. It was proven to be effective, but I realized that many times I did not have enough time in a class period to finish this, and I wanted to concentrate on an activity that I could do in one day, and I could get the point across from the reading, the students understand it. And then I also wanted to make sure that I created something that was student friendly. Now, if you read through the closed read steps, you will see that each of the steps are basically teacher instructions to tell the students to do. But they cannot take this and use it in science without their teacher having it as an instruction activity. So I wanted to create a student-friendly version of this. So this is the evidence. I revised the steps for in class, and then I created the steps or something that they could take this home and they could do the same thing or a similar idea of with the reading, instead of just saying, hey guys, let's go read this worksheet or let's read this paragraph at home. It's getting them to understand the reading by having them do more with the reading. And same for in class, I decided to change it up a little bit, make it less overwhelming, condense it, and make it more attainable to complete in a class period. And so for the last one, under the same umbrella of supporting ELLs and mainstream content area classrooms, is focusing on writing. So writing development. And so for this project, I focus on revising an existing writing rubric that we used. So I used three resources that we've probably you have probably recognized this because you probably saw this before, and this was literature on assessing students, and it spoke about rubrics and how we can use rubrics, how we can write rubrics, and the purpose of and the importance of using rubrics in the classroom for students and for teachers to guide our grading as well. And so I also used three different sources that also support the use of rubrics in the classroom and the importance of them. And the quote that I really liked for this project was, the rubric's goal must be clear so that it allows teacher and students to analyze the student's work in relation to the descriptive progression as an aid to decisions about how to proceed. So this was very important to create something that was able to analyze student work, so the teacher can analyze it, the student can analyze it, and figure out how to either start their paper, if they're writing a paper or they're creating a project, whatever it may be. The rubric's purpose is to help guide the students while they're writing and help the teacher figure out what to look in the writing what to look for in the writing to help students enhance their writing skills. So the current rubric that is in place is, I chose this rubric because this is a rubric that our district decided to kind of implement, or try to have social studies implement to help English language learners write how, and also to assist English language arts teachers with writing skills. Now this rubric, as you can see, is very teacher friendly. Now, I wanted to create something, not something new, but I wanted to revise this rubric to present it to the students. And I wanted to have this rubric student friendly because although I could have created a brand new rubric. Since the district wanted us to use it, I did not want to change what the rubric was saying. I did not want to change very much of what the district was wanting us to do, but I just wanted to make this a lot more student friendly. And something that is very important to note is one of the changes and additions to the new rubric is that we use the C strategy to organize their writing. So C stands for statement, evidence, elaboration, and there's a silent C of conclusion. Now, students can organize their writing by stating their topic, finding evidence from the text, elaborate on the text, and conclude their paragraph, multi-paragraph essays, responding to overarching questions that we ask in social studies. So this rubric that has been adjusted includes those pieces of the C strategy, and it also includes in different wording that is a lot more student friendly, a lot more condensed, and can explain the goals of an argumentative essay, and they can follow this to guide their writing. So in the previous rubric, there are 5 different sections. This one has been condensed to 4. And again, I didn't want to overwhelm the students. I wanted English language learners to be able to kind of use this as well, with more support and more scaffolding, of course, to understand this rubric. But it was a lot easier to dissect than the previous rubric. And like I said, I did not want to create a new one because the district did want us to use this one. So I wanted to just change it up and adjust it to be able to have it more student friendly. So I presented all of the projects that I worked on these past couple of weeks and the topics that I focused on during these past weeks and the journals that we wrote. So thank you so much for your attention and hope to hear from you soon.